Welcome. I am Dr. Berry, and I am joined by two phenomenal guests. We have our streams joined, and so we have our chat here, and we are super glad to get to chat and talk with you all tonight about this Sarah Boone case. I'm a psychologist, and really, I like to cover things from a psychological perspective. I will let Misha go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Misha Janice. I have a channel here on YouTube called Misha Janice. I'm an attorney licensed in Florida and New York. I'm nosy, so I love true crime. I don't practice criminal law, but I'm nosy, so I like watching it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tanika. I have a YouTube channel, Tanika's 2 Cents. And I also have another one, Simply Tanika, which is where I started my fertility journey here. But I'm nosy. And I like digging up information. And I'm obsessed right now with Sarah Boone and all things on the road to justice for George Torres.
Yes. And I love that you said the justice for George Torres, because wow, today Sarah Boone got on the stand, and it was a lot to even get her up there, because she took a comfort break, and then there was there were so many breaks, and then they took the lunch break, and then she finally came on. What were some of y'all's thoughts about how the morning went?
Well, I wondered if they were stalling the defense. There was a lot of it felt like foot dragging, if you will. And so I was like, one, I don't think they were ready for today, even though we all saw the writing on the wall yesterday. But yeah, it just felt like they were bumbling around, stalling. They took a break, and then Owens was like, we should keep them out or whatever. So then their break ran into lunch. It was weird.
Yeah, I agree. Oh,
I think
Tanika?
she'll come back.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, everybody was ready to see Sarah. So I'm glad they got her on the stand today, and they finished with her today, which I think was maybe a bigger shock to to everybody, that the cross wasn't long and continuous and still underway right now. Court did go a little bit longer than 5 o'clock, but shockingly, we got to the direct and cross of Sarah Boone.
What did you guys think about the overt act? It didn't do it for me, but I feel like Kranick let it in because it's going to come down to the trier of fact, right? So the jury, reasonable person, believed that was an overt act. But I was just like, and it still sounds like she's saying it was partial accident. So I thought you couldn't argue accident and self-defense. So that part was like a little weird, but I was waiting. I had a lot of anticipation for this overt act, and then it just fell flat for me.
My opinion, her counsel had said in the opening that it was all about that 11-minute window of time, right? And we didn't know what happened in that window of time between the two videos. So this was Sarah Boone's only opportunity to explain what possible overt act could have been enough to cause her to have this reasonable fear. So the standard is very low. And the judge explained that when he made his ruling. The overt act has to be established, and only a scintilla of evidence is required. A scintilla. You know how small that is? So in order to not be reversed, because that would definitely be an issue on appeal, whether or not the defendant is able to present a defense of hers. I think he just said, the hand coming through the suitcase, in addition to the verbal threats, which triggered her in the past, were enough to fulfill that scintilla standard.
I'm interested to see if the prosecution brings up, I think this is the first time anyone's hearing about those threats, that it did not come. I don't know if that came up with her other assessments. So she's been assessed by a defense psychologist, and then the prosecution has a forensic psychiatrist. And so I'm definitely looking to hear their take. Someone in the comments said they're looking forward to a forensic psychologist take on this. So I like to clarify, I am a clinical psychologist. I am all about diagnosis and treatment. I am not forensic. And so Dr. G explains, Dr. John from Hidden True Crime, those are some of the YouTube forensic psychologists.
Okay. Yeah, good. I mean, wasn't one of the arguments that the state has said multiple times was there is no overt act. There is no overt act. You know, she's made her proffers. Granted, it's not testimony, but she has said in multiple statements to the psychologists, I'm forgetting the names right now. She's made these things that the experts have relied upon, and they've been asked, was there an overt act? And there was no overt act to speak of. So yeah, I'm
right. She met with Julie Harper 5 times. The 5th time was after Owens came on the case. And then I guess they had the deposition, and they were asking her, Mr. J was asking her, and after much prompting, she still didn't come up with an overt. Yeah.
And Dr. Harper is the defense expert, and Dr. Werner is the forensic psychiatrist. And that's where I wonder if anyone is going to talk about her, about personality. I wonder what sense, because when she was on the stand talking about how she fell in love with George and the love they had, she seemed to be describing like entertaining a child or a dog. Like it did not seem like a partnership or talking about a grown man. It just didn't.
This is the question that I had for you, Dr. Berry, because I don't think anybody saw any emotion from her at any point. Like, I don't know what the experience was being in the courtroom, but it certainly wasn't shown on screen. She was very just like sterile, kind of matter of fact. It seemed like she was talking about how much she loved him. She was talking about the abuse that she suffered at his hands. She's talking about how she found him passed away, even demonstrating with the luggage itself, just nothing. It's almost like an indifference. I don't know if it's indifference or what. I think a lot of people were expecting her to like go buck wild on the stand, and she did not.
And I didn't think she would. She is so controlled. And there was one point before the jury came out. I don't know if she was saying a prayer. I don't know, but she was looking down. The door opens to the jury, and she looks up, and she's like, it was like
showtime.
She cheesed.
She perked up, and it was like a transfer. It was like a moment.
Performance.
Yeah. I thought she was praying until she popped up, and then it was that looks like it's like she might as well have done jazz hands. Like she was ready.
And I have consistently said over and over, I did not think she was going to lose it on the stand because those cameras are there, and she thought this was her moment. This was her chance to get her side of the story across, and I think she wanted to come across smart. So I watched Surviving the Survivor stream. They have a stream at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so I just, and someone on there mentioned how she said, she like gasped, or she was aghast, or like she said some words, or it was just like, that's just not how people talk in general.
Some big words.
Yes. Like she said she was
aghast.
Oh my God. Yes.
That's really funny.
The whole thing, I feel like she demonstrated depraved heart, though. Like with the testimony that she was giving, she couldn't be like, if she were any more indifferent, I would think we were talking about like a cardboard snowman that she had to throw away. Do you know what I mean? Not someone who she claimed was the love of her life, who she was saving from I don't know what. She was flat. She was flat.
But when she described like the reason why she loved him was because she never thought he would love someone like her. Like she's still making herself the center. Does that make sense? So
Mhm. He
Yes.
complimented her. He told
she's
her she was great. Yeah.
and she looked a mess and he saw her. And then the way that she talked down about Brian after all her ex has done for her,
Mm.
and she tried to portray herself as like that she was annoyed that Brian was calling her so many times. Like, doesn't he know she's getting herself together? But ma'am, it's 12:30. Like
It's for your child. Please
let's
pick
out
him up
and
because you have not picked him up in the past.
Brian isn't dressed right now. Like,
Oh my
What
God! In his
of
testimony, he said that he was like, I was working from home. I had to throw that on, and I'm like, okay, are you in your pajamas, sir? Working from home? Like, why don't you have on clothes?
from the bottom down. From y'all will catch me. So today is a work from home day. Y'all will catch me in some pajama pants. So yes. Mm-mm.
And the thing when she's like, he was blowing up her phone or whatever she said, go answer it, and then that ends it. Just go pick up the phone. Hey, yeah, I'm gonna get our son. Do you know?
So I know, Tanika, I know you missed cross examination, but on cross, he asked her, "What are you notorious for?" Because she said Brian was notorious for, was it the phone calls?
Uh-huh.
George was notorious. He asked her, "What are you notorious for?" Because I think everyone would say for being drunk. Like I think that's what her
In
neighbors.
the eyes of the neighbors,
She
yeah,
was notorious for being drunk.
absolutely. Yeah. I don't
And
remember
George
what her
was
answer was.
notorious. George was notorious for running into walls. Said no one except Sarah in her interrogation.
Can
But
we
I
talk?
wonder if that was her trying to explain some of his injuries, and I don't believe that was true.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think someone else would have said that. Like he was uncoordinated, or when he got drunk, he ran into walls. Like it was just so random. I feel like that is what someone who abuses someone else says. They run into walls, or they're running into doors, or what have you.
We do know that they come up with stories to explain their injuries. That was one of the stories. I think. Oh, the scar on her leg when she showed the world her leg. She stood up and hiked up that skirt and she lifted her leg to show the stab wound, now healed, in the leg. I was just like, oh wow. But she detailed how they came up with the story. Of course, George forced her to come up with a story in her narrative. But that was a story that she told the hospital and that she told law enforcement officers. So it's kind of like, okay, well, you're willing to lie to get out of a sticky situation.
But I think they're immature enough to play sword fight. Like I don't like so the story they made up was that it was a sword fight, and because her story of we're eating steak, he's mad that his steak wasn't made right, that story did not make sense to me at all. It didn't make any sense to me.
I didn't follow the steak and potatoes story at all. Maybe I just can't relate. I don't know.
And Northwest is like
The
steak
forcible
in bed
essay. Like
because they're somehow in the bedroom. I'm so glad I didn't hear. I don't think she talked about essay, right? Like, because that was an allegation. Did she get to there? Maybe I missed it. I missed a part. I couldn't take her entire direct. I couldn't take all of
during
it.
during the talk about the steak, she says that he wants to have sex with her. I can't remember the exact words, but there's something going on.
Okay, but she didn't say he did anything, so I didn't
No.
hear. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Which I question all of the if there was any essay, right? Because the only other witness is no here. So and that's a place where you would expect to be intimate, right? Because she's got all these other stories that are uncorroborated. Nobody ever saw George hit her. And so it would be, I think, in her mind, less conspicuous to have an incident where you wouldn't expect a witness to be there versus having like 0 witnesses for every incident.
And I missed. Did she allege harm to the dogs? Because I told you the last like 30 minutes. So when they were bringing out the pictures, so I could not sit that part. So I have sat down with victims of harm, and sometimes they've been disconnected because it was different. This I don't like it didn't it felt like she was going through the motions of like, okay. And so Owens also, he was standing weird to me. Like would kind of throw a picture down, and I don't know, like that whole part was just odd to me.
All the pictures of her injuries,
And not the pictures part, but just her way of explaining it and her way of just going through everything.
reciting.
It was as though
Like she was trying to get her lines right. Like she was trying to keep the story straight.
Because she talks about being afraid all of the time. And it's so Ashley Benefield, I watched her testimony. She came across looking afraid. Does that make sense? And Sarah did not come off fearful to me. I do think the jury likely sees her as like something happened. Their relationship, there are these wounds that have happened, these injuries that have happened. I think the state is going to try to introduce what she has done, because even her explanation of why she choked him, because I think she was prepared that they're going to bring that in. Because she said he was like, I don't know, like he was hitting her head or something, and she did that to get him off of her.
I mean,
there's body cam footage though. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
There's footage
on the 18th when she's July in 2018 when she strangled him. Yes, they were both arrested. She mentions it in the interrogation room when she said, "Oh, I was arrested because we had different stories." His was he was going up the stairs and she was strangling him to get him to come back down, and he kicked her because he couldn't breathe. And that's the one where when they're putting him in the police car, the policeman says, "One of you guys, they're going to keep you away for at least 2 days." They do that, so one of you guys doesn't end up dead. And another police officer in another video told George to stay away from Sarah. But yeah, there's a video of that night, and they have 2 different stories.
So
and apparently, there's a video.
Is that the time that she said she was defending herself for the first time? She testified today and said it was a time when she was arrested, I think. And she said it's because it was the first time I actually defended myself against him.
Wow. Well, according to his version of it, she was the aggressor. And he kicked her so he could breathe, so to get her off of his neck.
And she's telling a completely different version. And the state also tried to say, because her memory on direct, as we knew, was going to be excellent.
Crystal clear.
Excellent. So she said she didn't remember taking the picture of the suitcase, but she somehow remembers the videos. And
I don't believe she remembers those videos.
I don't think so either. But yet she remembers everything she did in between the videos.
But how is it consistent? Because even in the last video, right, there's 11 minutes in between, but he's saying Sarah, and it's almost like he's taking his last breath then. So where did he get all this energy in between to like say all of these things, be aggressive, and then go back to begging?
Right.
And also, so when he's in the suitcase, somebody else pointed this out. He does not know when she takes the camera out or when she doesn't. And he is pleading. He doesn't sound aggressive. He doesn't sound mad to me. Like he sounds desperate. I hear desperation when I watch that video, and what she says happened. It doesn't seem to fit.
It doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up.
And you don't remember taking the picture. You remember the video. You don't remember what y'all had for lunch, which is like that can be common, but especially for something that was almost 5 years ago. But somehow you remember exactly what happened. And I do believe this is the first time she's talking about those minutes, because in the interrogation she says, "I don't know." And she's trying to figure out what happened. But I think she's trying to figure out what they know, because I think she's going to try to weave
Yeah.
things in a way, because I think she's a pathological liar. I don't know that Sarah could tell you the color of her shirt, or like I think she just pathological and compulsive. Like I think she just lies.
That could fit. That could fit. Can I ask you about the savior complex that she has? What is it about her savior complex? And is there a correlation between her early family life? There's a lot of death of, her family. Is there any correlation between that and her need to like rehabilitate George and show him exactly what he needs to do and make him a better person? And that's just so strange to me, like the way that she's just trying to control every little facet of his existence, like he is not only a child but a very needy child or something.
So when she describes falling in love with him because they had so much in common, I wonder if what they had in common was being alcoholics. And their relationship sounds codependent to me, that they needed each other in an unhealthy way.
Mm-hmm.
That there were probably times that things were decent for them. Things might have been passionate. Like things might have been okay at times, but I think things could get chaotic. And I think he had periods of sobriety in the past. She even talked about the day that she met him at the bar because she was so fed up with Brian. And so as she's like, she can't help but step on someone to make her look better. And I think what she saw in him was somebody that she could help, but she needed help. Like, stop trying to fix him. Your life is a hot mess.
Is it kind of like how I like to watch Hoarders or Intervention to make myself feel better?
But worse than that. But it would be like you sitting in a house filled with stuff and you being a chronic hoarder, feeling better seeing hoarders that were worse than you. Does that make sense?
Oh,
Like
okay.
it's that level. It's pathology,
Mm.
because with her being that, I think she needs to feel better than someone. So Brian held a stable job. Brian made good money, and he just wanted her to not drink too much and to help, to be a mom. That's what he wanted. She wasn't able to do that.
Did she develop alcoholism while she was with Brian?
It's my understanding her drinking got worse after the birth of their son. And psychologically, it could have been that her own grief and loss about her own family. I don't know what she thought being a mom was going to be like. We have moms on this, so we're all moms. And you don't have kids because you need love. You don't have kids because you need, like, you have kids to give. You have kids because you want to pour back. Because kids, they're not supposed to fill you. They're not supposed to, to help you with your emotions, or like, you have to be there for them, and your life has to change. And it seemed, I think Brian mentioned that she seemed to almost, my words, not his, but to almost resent the life she was losing, being, because she couldn't stay out at the bar all night. Like she was supposed to be home.
Yeah.
And she never adjusted to being a mom, according to Brian. Tanika, do you have any thoughts? Because I know that you followed.
Yes. So, one, I think she needs someone to need her, right? She thought that was going to happen with the child. That wasn't going to happen. Even though both she and George have alcohol or had alcohol abuse issues, she still saw herself as better than George, right? And so she's helping him and she's doing this for him. But in between the lines, it sounds like she was agitating him, right? Like when she's talking about the money for the wife and everything else, she was probably sitting there telling George, like, well, you don't even pay groceries here. You need to spend more money here. Like making it more of an issue than it needed to be, right? Yeah, from everything, it just seems like she needs to be better. And I think she probably was even like the apple of Brian's eye. I mean, Lord knows he was still chasing after her, right? Like these years later. But so when the son came along, and I'm trying not to say his name, was someone else who needed Brian's attention now, right? And so it's almost like they're in a competition, she and the child, for affection and attention. And then, I mean, she talked about her blind dog and her deaf dog today multiple times. Like, she needs to be seen as someone who takes care of other things. Like,
right.
Without actually taking care of those things. Because I don't think George's family, so she said his probation officer and that everybody would say that she's the best thing for him. When we actually talked to those people, I think they would probably say like they were worse together. Like it was not healthy. And I don't think she has great insight into how others perceive her. Because I do think that when she was standing by the suitcase, her lack of emotion. So Tanika, you missed that part. On cross-examination, the prosecution had her like it had her explain the suitcase. If I can find that clip, would y'all want to see that?
Yeah.
I'll find that.
She came off of the witness stand into the well. He brought out the suitcase and had her try and zip it. Did you hear what she said? She was like, it wasn't this hard before the zipper. She had a lot of trouble struggling with the zipper. Apparently it did not have a paper clip or anything attached to it to make it easier. So that was a little bit of
and Owen seemed to rush to her aid. Okay, so Owens is going to jump up, and Owens does not want her to have to do this because they fumbled with the suitcase before this, and they did not bring this out on direct. They did not, and they are. Owens helps her with the gloves. Let's just watch the clip. Let me know if y'all want me to pause it.
Okay. It's not easy to open.
All right. Ms. Boone, can you demonstrate for the jury where Mr. Torres' head was and how his body was positioned in the suitcase, if you don't mind?
His back was this way and his head was here.
All right, and then is it fair to say his feet are kind of down here, which would be the front left corner from their perspective in the jury box?
Yes.
And then his knees are kind of tucked up towards his face.
If I remember correctly, yes, that's the position.
Okay. All right. Can you help me understand how it was that your zip is shut? Can you show us where you say you left?
And he tried to help her. He tried to have it higher so she didn't have to bend down. He tried to have it higher for her.
Got his hand cut out of it?
Would it be easier to put it down here?
I didn't want to make you go down there. If you're happy doing that, I'll let you.
Like, I'll go down.
Hold up. Does she need to be wearing gloves? Yes.
Agreed. She's going to be manipulating it.
Here comes her attorney.
did she turn her skirt around backwards?
Have a foot right there. Did she do that to have the slit in the side?
Huh.
I don't know.
What do you want her to do?
Just demonstrate how she zipped it shut.
Okay, well, where's the paperclip?
Where's the paper?
And do you remember which one it was in?
She's just standing there. Like this isn't upsetting to her.
This side.
Right. Basically, that was his temporary casket. And she's just like unbothered. She looks super tiny right there.
She
I
said
think
she's
she's
5'3". Mhm.
Judge, the paperclip was on when this event occurred. When we pulled the suitcase out earlier, the paperclip was not attached.
Okay.
And now the prosecutor.
Is this an
attached the
objection?
paperclip.
What are we
Said,
doing?
We don't know if that's the way it was attached.
It's not even a paperclip.
We
Okay.
don't know if that's the proper way that it was attached.
Is she
He's
a crime
asking
scene
her now to
investigator?
pull.
Is there an objection?
There you go.
Yes?
Approach.
So they're gonna approach, and she's just gonna stand there
Mhm.
and look around, and
It's so awkward.
but she doesn't seem bothered by this at all.
Madam Clerk, are you ready? Can we see how it was that the two zipper parts were positioned when you say that Mr. Torres was able to get his hand out? If you want me to do it, I'm fine to take your direction.
From what I remember,
From what I remember,
this is how the suitcase. This is how the suitcase was. This was up here. This was not this hard either. So this was like here,
Okay.
right here.
About right there, ma'am?
Sure.
I'm surprised Misha, maybe you can, is it normal for the defense attorney to be standing right here during an
Owens does what Owens wants to do. It's just very strange that he's up there. Like, it's very strange.
And he didn't even ask to approach. Like, where's the deputy? I'm nervous. And she could just comp Mr. J over the head right here. What is happening?
They did get permission for her to come off the stand into the open part. They moved. There was like some bag or something. There was something, I think it was like a laptop bag or something. They did move that. I do believe there are deputies standing relatively close, but Owens being there felt odd to me. It felt odd.
I assume this one.
What about when he touched her leg when she was on the stand for the scar? I was like, whoa. Did you guys see that?
I've never touched a client that way. Like it was.
I didn't notice that he touched it.
We will have to.
No,
He like made sure the jury could see where to look, and it wasn't anything, so it wasn't inappropriate, but I have a very big personal space boundary, and he would have been, I might have been like, sir, like don't touch me. It was,
yeah, because
she likes touch though, so
yeah,
it was okay.
Mhm.
But he could have just said, "Can you hold your leg up a little higher so they can?" I don't know. I'm just like, "Sir, can you please get your hands off her legs?" Okay, my kid. Sorry.
It's not over there? Where did you leave?
You asked me where I zipped it.
When you say that it was zipped shut, show us.
Are you talking about how I zipped it or?
When you're done zipping it shut and he's inside of it, where are the zipper components?
Oh, this is perfect. She got the messing with her marker weapon.
Just tell me where it's at.
I mean, it was the corner. I mean, it's the corner
It was right
that
here?
open. I mean, it's not. Yes, this one was already pretty much. Yes. From what I can remember.
All right. Was there anything else y'all wanted to see with that part? Okay, good.
No.
That was wow. We don't have to see him hold her leg. we don't need to see that part.
She's very defensive though, right there, right? Like, well, what do you want to see? I would not, if I were recreating like a horrible accident that I had been involved in, I don't think I would be that flipped, do you know? It's not like she's seeking to understand what he's saying. It's almost as if it's with disdain. Like, well, that's not what you told me. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're here trying to prove your innocence, right? And so, like, these should be straightforward. The truth don't change. Like, where was his head? Where was his hand? That should be like, isn't that etched in her memory?
It might not be because she might not remember. That's the thing. It's why are you asking me to remember? I was drunk. I've told you multiple times. I had mega pints.
Yikes. But how's she going to remember that in the 11 minutes that we don't see? She remembers perfect.
Listen,
Do you know?
whatever fits into her defense, that's what she'll remember.
And because she is creative as well.
She loves art.
Oh, can we do a poll? I can't see. I just want to know credibility wise. What do you guys thought?
Let me know what you'd like it to say, and do we each have to do it on our own stream? I've never done
I've
done it.
No, I
I
can't.
didn't even know where to go.
I think we have to go act.
Let's just do ones, twos, and threes for three.
Okay, there we go.
options.
In the
Okay,
chat. In the chat.
perfect.
You can see.
Okay, so what's one? She was credible.
She was what?
Credible.
Credible.
Oh, so okay, so credible or not credible? 1 for credible, 2 for not credible, 3 for undecided, and go.
You guys let us know.
I'm seeing only 2s. 2.5 Legally Blonde. I like that.
Oh my
Because
God.
there were some parts of it that it's hard because no two people respond to things the same. And all she needs is one juror to buy into this. I do think the reason why the state didn't go hard on some of the rebuttal with her, or not rebuttal, but with her cross-examination, was I think they have testimony from other people to say what happened. Because in her direct testimony, she seemed to allude to the fact that the neighbor actually heard an event, her going down the stairs the night before, and not George.
Can we talk about this?
Let's
this
talk about
discrepancy. This is a huge discrepancy because we have 2 people, 3 people if you include the girlfriend who was on the phone with the neighbor who heard this huge crash the night that, this all happened. Sarah Boone gets on the stand and she says it was the wrong night they're talking about. They were talking about it happening Friday night, right? Friday night, is when she was in bed. George came up into the bed, pulled her out of the hair by the hair out of the bed, and dragged her down the stairs. I guess making a huge rumbling noise. She didn't say she fell down the stairs, right? She didn't say he threw her down the stairs.
And she has no marks. Some missing hair, but no marks.
And not only that, but if you go back to the testimony that she started the day with, her attorney asked her, how did that day begin? George got up early. He was downstairs. He wanted to start drinking. She came down and she started encouraging him to clean the house. Let's get things done. Let's fold laundry together. Let's sweep and mop and empty the dishwasher for a sense of accomplishment. Then we can celebrate that accomplishment later by drinking. Does that happen the day after you've been thrown down the stairs?
And she talks too much. She didn't mention that in the police interrogation. When they said, when was your last argument? It was like 2-3 weeks ago. Oh, I'm surprised you didn't take the curtain rod. Why didn't she mention that?
And she did say that day that she wanted him to call, like that she was complaining about one incident. Well, I don't know if it was when he was on the phone with his brother, or when she wanted him to call his daughter. But I think to call his daughter to so that she could yell in the background about how bad he is to her. I don't think it was so that he could have a good conversation with his daughter. And it's my understanding 2 of his daughters were present at court today. Jules is a court, she's a lay, but she's she does commentary. She called into Recovery Addict to provide an update, and that those were 2 of the family members that were present today. And
I thought I saw his oldest daughter.
Yeah. And they, for some reason, she needed to say their names.
Why? She couldn't count in her head how many siblings he had? I'll just say their names if you don't mind.
I wonder if she said one of their names just in case any of the jurors had heard of the case with him. Do you know what I mean?
What case with him? What do you mean?
One of the brothers. Did you hear one of the brothers that unalived his girlfriend?
Yes. I didn't think about that.
And he hasn't went to trial or anything yet. I think that happened last year or because Owens is the one that mentioned that on his first appearance on court TV, I believe. That the Torres brothers, that's what Owens had the nerve to say.
I do remember that. I didn't realize that there was this incident. I thought that they were just.
I thought it was feral. I thought it was.
Yeah, it is. I think it was a stretch for her to throw throw that in there. Yeah, because maybe they have heard of it. Because it's not admissible. Owens is not going to be able to get that in on the record, but Sarah certainly could drop that.
Because she didn't know the sister's name. She didn't say, but she said, I thought, from what I remember, she said the brothers' names.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has a sister. And I think she wanted to get that. That's just my own personal feeling. Nobody knows what Sarah's thinking.
She's intentional though. She's not doing anything by accident up there. I'm not saying that it's going well, but what's going on, Misha?
Did you have any questions?
Oh,
I think we're going to wrap up in about 15 minutes or so.
No, I'm just going through my notes to see if I had anything else that I wanted to.
And
I can flash these up. Can I just say really fast? Thank you to Nicholas for joining. Linger1234 for the $10 chat. Cheryl. She said she wouldn't kill him on that night if she was sober. If you were scared for your life, it wouldn't matter, drunk or sober. True. And I think George was packing to leave. Yes, and she flipped. I think so too, especially with all that stuff in there. And then thanks Carla for becoming a new member. I think so. There was a tie in there. I'm assuming he had the baseball cap on that was bloody. I don't know, ladies. Either of you think he was because that's a dangerous time in a DV relationship, right? When you're leaving.
It came. I didn't realize it was his suitcase. Did anybody? I didn't. She said it was his suitcase. Her
Yeah, I heard that. It was a suitcase
that he
that he
used.
brought into the relationship, or he just used for that trip to Philly. I wasn't clear on that.
You know, in the chat, I heard on direct that it was his suitcase. Okay, I thought, because everywhere else she said it was her suitcase. Every other time,
Yes.
So I heard her say that it was his suitcase.
So if it was his suitcase and had his stuff in it, I think he was upstairs packing. I don't think he took an empty suitcase downstairs to play hide and seek, right? That doesn't make sense. Or an empty suitcase to, if your donation, the stuff that you're going to donate is upstairs. The suitcase is normally kept upstairs. Why do we have it now downstairs with a man?
And then I guess Joel from Surviving the Survivor said, so this is just a comment that that Sarah had a friend in court today. And then yes, that she definitely said that it was his suitcase. And that's where I really wonder if he was trying to leave. If it had finally got to be too much. And if he was going to try to go to his parents' house or something.
You think that night in his state?
So the neighbors heard an argument at 7:30. She didn't mention that argument at all. In her recounting of everything that happened, there was no loud argument around. So I wonder if when she rushed him off the phone with his brother, was there a big argument that happened after that? I don't know. Now he was way too drunk to do anything. I mean, I'm not like he was. Like they were both incredibly drunk. And his brother said that he would become incredibly emotional. I wonder if he realized that he did not want to continue this back and forth anymore. It's my understanding that sometimes she would stay out of the apartment. Sometimes he would pitch a tent and just sleep places.
They had just renewed the lease. I know she had him taken off before, but there was a new lease signed in January, and he signed it also.
So he was on the lease.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
But because of the charges against him, it was probably easy for her to try to get him taken off. Does that make sense? Like sometimes apartment complexes, if one person has been arrested for DV, because the apartment complex doesn't want to force people to stay together. So I've seen apartment complexes easily work towards removing somebody from a lease if there were instances. And I thought the manager said that if there continued to be instances of like loud arguing and all of that they were going to be asked to leave.
What would have been the breaking point though? Because there already had been multiple instances.
I think the neighbors they had didn't report it.
No, they didn't report it because they had been reporting it and they weren't doing anything. That's when the neighbors just started tuning it out because they were so used to it and nothing was happening. I don't know.
I'm glad I don't have to scream into the void. Like this feels a lot better.
Oh my God. It's crazy. And I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so I got extremely triggered when Owens tried to use an analogy of if a police officer thinks a suspect has a weapon and they go and they just that's justifiable. And I personally felt, no, sir. Like, no, I don't want officers to be hypervigilant and just be out here harming people with cell phones, or because I went on a rant on my stream that I have a little brown boy that does not play with with toy pew pews outside. Like he has never taken a toy pew pew. He didn't get his first toy pew pew until he was 4 or 5. He didn't even have any. And it's like, do you know, like, what, to me that was incredibly triggering for me. But
Poor
the
taste.
state had just made the defense of like what's not justifiable, and the jury wasn't present for that part. That was outside of the presence of the jury when they were trying to argue, did she say enough? Was the act she thought, did it go far enough?
Yeah,
I don't think
I didn't like that. And taking it back to another analogy, I also was like, say what now? When I believe it was the prosecutor talking about the dog.
oh, Mr. J, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. And once he said, I don't mean to dehumanize, he should have stopped. Like, because then you walked right into dehumanizing.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we need some sensitivity training. I don't know. I don't know. Any thoughts on there not being any female attorneys from the state? And is there any, I don't know, a rub in having, these great attorneys, the state's team, in questioning Sarah Boone?
And I do think that's why the state didn't go as hard in questioning Sarah. I think he didn't want to come off like a bully,
Yeah.
because she had just finished. What they ended with was all of her injuries and all of that. For him to go in and be like, he did say like, you're lying, but for him to go in too hard might have made the jury mad at him.
Come
And so
off.
I do
Yeah.
think he had to walk a fine line. But I've seen people so women are hard on women. I've heard people, so I've seen women go hard on a female defendant, and the comment section hates it too. And so I don't know if the strategy would have been different. Misha, you can clarify, because somebody, a lawyer on another channel, mentioned that the state had to be careful to not open doors for the defense to then clarify anything, because they never had her clarify the get rid of him text. They never asked her about it. They just let it stand. Like, so they didn't say, so what did you mean? Like they never clarified anything like that. Tanika, when you get to go back and watch Cross, it was maybe 45 minutes. It was short. I felt it was short.
It was not very long. I did hear somebody talk about it. I can't remember. There's so many people talking about the case though. And it was a good, a good thought that maybe you don't bring it up. And if you don't bring it up, then it doesn't keep the door open for them to further explain it when they have an opportunity to. So on redirect, right? So that's possibly why.
Does anyone know who the female names? So Tanika, okay, so the prosecution listed, I wonder if they know of female names that were in George's phone. They also asked Sarah if she was the one looking at the pornography, because I guess something about him looking at pornography on on her phone. They were like, "Are you looking at that?" Like that was something that came up.
She said the only reason she would have looked at the pornography was to see what he was looking at.
I wonder if there was a time on that, because like
yes,
it wouldn't be long. Like if it was okay,
and that she can
and no shaming.
I think it came in because she considered it as cheating. She said that she told George she considered his looking at pornography as cheating on her, right? So that's one of the things we heard her say on the video. This is for when you cheat on me, and this is for when you choke me. So I think that was kind of an explanation. You like my junk voice? I think that was kind of an explanation of why she said that one line in the video.
She did sometimes, though, if he asked her, were you drunk on that video? She went, obviously.
Oh, now it's obvious. When before she was like, I wasn't drunk. I didn't say I was drunk.
I
I can't
can't
get
get
drunk.
And then, people did ask about our, that we should, because the curls are popping. And so people wanted to share the wash. I don't know, like whatever our techniques were. I really felt like this could be a curly girls podcast. Three women and a baby.
That'd be awesome.
But Drunk to the Bear said, convinced the three of you could rule the world. Justice for George. Thank you for your work. Charlie's Angels.
I love it. I love it.
Awesome.
You don't see very many panels that look like this, right?
Yay. This has been a long day with all this and the emotions that go with it. I go along with it. Yes. Pretty sure I'll have a good cry before the night is over. And so please make sure that you take care of you and your mental health. Please take breaks. So for me, talking about this and getting these thoughts out and hearing this, to me, it gives me hope that the jury is listening to everything. And the case isn't over until those closing statements. And I heard a lawyer, and Misha, I wonder if you'll agree with this, that normally at the end of the prosecution's case, you're thinking the prosecution's winning. And then at the end of the defense case, sometimes you're like, ooh, I don't know. And then it goes to the jury. How do you kind of feel as a lawyer with that process?
I mean, that's kind of how it's supposed to go. Like, the defendant has a right to be heard.
Mhm.
And, if they do a good enough job, then they'll have that reasonable doubt, or, in a criminal case, they will present enough to a jury where they go, well, maybe the state's case isn't quite as airtight as we originally were thinking it was. That's a win for a defense.
Oh, this is
So,
a good question. Did either of George's wives complain of harm?
good
I
question.
noticed they mentioned that he was married twice in the past.
I didn't even know it was twice until today, but I know the one that he has the two younger children with said there was no DV. The oldest daughter is like in her 30s, so I'm not sure if it's. I'm not trying to disparage anyone. I don't know if it's the same mother or not. I know she was like she's some sort of military service.
And Cheryl said, quote of the day, because this was to Detective Kopsel. I'm bad because I heard her name correct today. So you were pregnant? Objection. Well, whatever. And that was Owens. I think, it was Henderson. Was it
Henderson?
Definitely Henderson.
I wrote that down. I was like, that fell flat. Well, anyway.
Because I was saying on my stream, I was like, as a pregnant person, it is hard to think. It is hard to remember things. I wish, like, so there are things, because especially when you get towards the end, you're normally not sleeping well. You're normally, like, everybody's experience is different. And so it was just that was a whole thing.
It is scientifically proven. There are physiological and chemical changes that happen in the brain of a pregnant woman that, mommy brain is real.
It really is real.
Pregnancy brain is real.
And Pinky asked, why didn't Jay ask her if George ever hit or argued with his ex-wives? I don't know if his daughters are on the states list or if any of his exes are on the states list. They can bring in, I don't know. So I don't know that would have been helpful, because she could have also lied. And I don't know that would have necessarily been helpful.
What do you think about the photos of abuse, but specifically the photo of George with the baseball bat hitting the television?
Was he asleep? Was he passed? Did she put
In
the
one of the photos, yeah, he was
Is-
passed out, or she said he was passed out.
Is he awake in any of those hitting? Is he awake? So it's him hitting it.
Yeah. I think they might have been stills from a video that she took,
Okay.
possibly. But yeah, one of them is a picture of him hitting with a bat the big screen TV, flat screen.
And property destruction, I don't think it's appropriate. I've mentioned here before, I do think that he did things that were wrong. I think she did things that were wrong, and they would have been better off not together. And if he's in that suitcase and she feels threatened, call 911, leave, do something. Don't go to sleep. She literally went upstairs and she just went to sleep. And and
And she previously on the stand said whenever she was sleeping, he was mad, right? Like in one of her previous TV claims, like he would get mad. So it's just that makes even less sense that you would go up. He's gonna get out and find you sleeping and lose it, and you're okay, just comfortably snoozing there.
A lot of what she said just didn't add up. Let's talk really quickly, because this is one of the other inconsistencies that I heard. I don't know if anybody else heard. Let me know in the comments. But she said she went upstairs after leaving George downstairs in a suitcase, and she made the call to Brian, right? And then she went to sleep. So how then was the phone downstairs the next morning?
she lied because she told that to the detective. So I think she went to sleep with the phone upstairs. I don't think it was downstairs when I think that was a lie. I think she took the phone upstairs and passed out. I don't think she went
upstairs.
upstairs.
Okay.
I don't think. I did not pass out. I went to sleep. Ma'am.
Now, see, I think she called him downstairs, left the phone downstairs, and then went upstairs and went to sleep. That's why also she was not motivated to answer him in the morning, because she had to come downstairs
to get it. But Misha, she said she took it upstairs and like
right.
That's what she said today on direct examination.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So.
And she also tried to make it sound like it was annoying and rude that Brian was ruining her morning get together time.
Which didn't make any sense. Just answer the phone and tell him yes, you're good. You know what I mean? Like, why are you ignoring it?
I don't know. That's a strange relationship.
Okay, one other tangent. I know we skipped over. When Henderson was talking to Miss Copesel, he was very demeaning. Like, hey, little lady.
Oh.
What? He said, hey, little lady?
It gave hey, little lady vibes. Like,
Okay.
Oh.
Were you okay to make the decisions by yourself? I don't know, just like trying to make her like not as credible, but not calling her a liar, but just Owens kind of did the same thing when he interviewed her for the hearing, right? Like if she's not a full-fledged officer, a full-fledged detective, it was like, sir, her superiors are complaining about her performance. Where are you going with this?
So I thought he was trying to ruin her credibility. So to me, on the stand for the motions hearing, she was much more facial. She did not control any. If they asked a dumb question, she was giving them facial expressions. And I mentioned when I covered it, I was concerned if she did that in front of the jury that she would come off less credible, because I felt Henderson was trying to make it sound like she had it in for Sarah. She always knew she was going to arrest her. There was this vendetta against her, and you are doing all these interviews without your partner, which is not true, because on every single interview she says who is in who's in the car with her. And I think for every single one, she says that her partner is right there, because that was one of the things that he was. So to me, he was asking her ridiculous questions, so ridiculous that the state had no redirect because they did nothing. They did redirect none.
Yeah.
We're good. We have a question for the panel. Does the state or defense know if he had porn? I don't. So, and I don't even think that would come up, even if he did have some type of yeah. What people, I don't know. So I don't. To me, this case is about substances and DV, and she didn't even bring up the allegation to me clearly of SA, which that Owens talked about in his opening. That never came in through her testimony to me.
Yeah, she didn't testify to that I heard.
Anything?
I didn't find her credible, so I hope the jury does not. We'll see. I know there's one DV victim on the jury, and I know there's someone who has a child because they have child care issues. I don't know if it's one and the same person, but so there's at least two. I'm glad that Mr. J didn't go too hard on Sarah, right? I wouldn't want him to be seen as an aggressor. I think her testimony is bad enough on its own that nobody needs to go after her or make it like they were out to get her. Because I'm sure defense is going to argue that they overcharged her, right? And so why would they overcharge her? Maybe like to the point of Chelsea being out to get her, whatever it is. There's something going on there.
She has ruined steak and potatoes for me, and she's ruined unintentional for me. Like those are two things that this trial has ruined for me. And wow, my takeaway from today is she got the defense end that she wanted, and that was huge. That was absolutely huge. I think we're going to get to Dr. Brannon tomorrow, and he's just a general he's just a general expert. I don't think they can get to Dr. Harper tomorrow because the state has to do their deposition of her, and that's supposed to be tomorrow night. Because the defense was trying to be like, she needs to fly out Thursday morning or something, and the state's like, you can't. We're going to be in trouble. Like if she gets here tomorrow, like we have to meet with her, and unless she can meet right now, like, and she's not in she's flying in tomorrow, I think, or something. But so I think the state has a strong second degree, and maybe Misha, you could explain how in Florida, because I think the jury will get instructions for second degree and manslaughter, I think. Yes or no?
To be honest, I don't know. She's charged with what, second degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if they automatically throw in the lesser included, or if they can find her guilty of the lesser included. But we gonna find out in the jury instructions.
Yep. We will see. We will see. Who's Pearl? Because anybody know who Pearl is? I don't know who Pearl is.
Pearl, I want to add to the case.
Okay, so I don't even know who Pearl is.
I think it's the witness. It's the 81-year-old witness that Sarah's calling, and they're asking if she's doing it via Zoom. I think it's like Pearl Walker or something like that.
But and I think the state, because she was able to come in person. I wonder if Miss Pearl doesn't want to be on camera. Like she doesn't want to be in the courtroom with all of the
hullabaloo.
Because she came to the courtroom for her deposition, and so the state did not allow her to do it by Zoom if she can come in person for the deposition. Of a former an elderly neighbor. She's a former neighbor who Sarah probably went to complaining about George, I'm guessing.
Pearl didn't see George lay hands on her. I don't know why she's coming.
I think it's just to corroborate that Sarah came to her. I don't know. I don't know.
Also, there was a motion the state filed for the insurance. Who's paying all of the travel expenses for the defense team? They want to get it on the record with the judge in case there's a conflict of interest.
Oh, I didn't get to look at that, Tanika. That's a motion that they filed like last night, right? Or this morning?
Yeah, yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I'm scared, but I'm also happy. I feel like her testimony fell flat today. Whatever she was trying to accomplish, I don't think it happened.
And she said enough to get the self-defense, to get that.
Yeah, the
included,
overt act.
because having that option to be able to be found not guilty because it was justifiable self-defense, that scares me just a little, but not too much, because I think the state is still going to come forward with more stuff. But yes,
I'm curious to hear what the experts will provide. What testimony the experts will provide. I don't know. I was surprised that that she got the defensive when the judge. I mean, I understood his reasoning, but he said it, and I was like, "What?" just the initial surprise, because she hasn't had very many wins, and this was a huge win for her.
And someone asked, how can we as viewers keep healthy distance from the results? And that's where I think it really is going to be up to the jury, and I respect the jury's decision. It's in their hands, and the state and defense got, like, this is the jury, and it is what it is, and there's nothing that we can do. And so, which can make it be harder to cope with, because often when you can do something, that feels a little better, but this isn't up to us. And no matter what, the people involved, their lives have been changed forever. And I hope that George's family, I hope that they can at least feel that he's being remembered in a I don't know, like, I just hope that they are okay, as okay as one can be, because this is tough.
Yeah, I was really prepared to hear all the negative things about him, and just knowing that his family is in the courtroom, it kind of just broke my heart a little bit, because of course they love he's their family, so you never want to hear like terrible things about a member of your family, and that's what the defense wants to do at this point.
And that's what Mel said. We always have to remember that we know more than the jury, because we know things that the jury shouldn't know. So, like, we know that there are allegations that she knew this was dangerous. We know that the jury is not going to know that. So Dr. G Explains posted a video if y'all want to head over to that afterwards. Awesome. He probably took a look at her testimony from today. Wow.
Nice.
Any final thoughts?
Thoughts and prayers out to the Torres family, to George's children, to his mom, to his siblings, and just, lifting them up from afar.
Justice for George. And please make sure to follow Misha Janice, to follow Tanika's 2 Cents. If you're not subscribed to my channel, Dr. Patrice Berry, we appreciate you all being here, and we hope y'all enjoy the rest of your night. Bye.
Thanks, guys.